just a little rundown. The Chesterfield County Police Department is committed to being a nationally recognized leader in law enforcement through hiring, training, and promoting the finest police professionals. The Chesterfield County Police Department is dedicated to the use of innovative and adaptive law enforcement technology, as well as implementing effective crime prevention strategies with community partners. They are devoted to ensuring the safety and security of our community through exceptional service. They are located in Central Virginia and adjoins the city of Richmond. The county is 90 miles south of Washington, D.C., and just a short mile from the beaches and the mountains. Chesterfield County is home to more than 323,000 residents and is approximately 440 square miles. So at this time, I would like to introduce Officer Malatesta and Officer Bailey.
I'm Officer Malatesta. I'm one of the department's recruiters. And then I've also got Officer Bailey with me. He's hanging out, listening in on the conversation as well to help with whatever questions you may have too. And so we both work for the police personnel unit. I'm obviously working remotely, so my work cell and my email are going to be the best ways that you can contact me after today. So you can write that down. You can text me, you can call me, you can send me an email, whatever's easiest for you. You just let me know, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. And then just a little bit of information about me. I have been with the department for around 8 years now. I went to Radford University, which is in Southwest Virginia down here. It's right outside of Virginia Tech. So I went there for school for 4 years, and then I graduated with a degree in criminal justice and started the academy a month later. So very little life experience as far as, jobs, and I didn't join the military or get any extra kind of training or anything like that to become a police officer. So it's not necessary. However, what you're doing right now will certainly come into effect down the road. So that's one thing I wanted to share with you. I went to high school, went to college, and then graduated and started the academy. So very little life experience besides that degree. And so that still definitely came into play down the road. So we are in Central Virginia. We are right outside of Richmond City. So we are our own jurisdiction. Richmond is going to have their own police department. Hopewell, Colonial Heights, Petersburg, Dinwiddie. Everyone is going to have their own jurisdiction down here in the Central Virginia area. We are the 4th largest county in the state. We have about 446 square miles that we cover, and we have just over 500 police officers that work for the police department, just to give you an idea of the size and the location. So up north by Richmond, you'll probably have a lot of traffic, a lot of apartments, restaurants, breweries, townhouses, anything that you can think of towards like a city area. It's going to be very, very similar to Richmond as well as in Chesterfield. Down south towards Colonial Heights and Petersburg, you might talk to cows more than you talk to people. And that's awesome because you get a little bit of everything in Chesterfield. So I'll get into that in a second. But by vehicle, we're only about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from the beach. We're 3 hours from the Outer Banks, 2.5 hours away from DC, and about an hour and a half from the Appalachian Mountains. So obviously with everything being so close by, and obviously with the airport being close by, we're in a really good area for a young adult to kind of figure out what their next chapter in their life is going to be. So I know I personally have grown up in Chesterfield since '04. I was a military brat, so we moved here in 2004. I went to high school for 4 years, and I've, basically done a lot of growing up in Chesterfield. I got married, I have kids, bought my first house, anything that you can think of that a young adult would go through and go into their career as far as that goes. Chesterfield is certainly a really good place to do it, and I am just speaking from my experience. So this next slide here is showing you the police department itself. So this is how the county is broken up as the police department. So you can see 1 and 2 are up in the north end, and zones 3 and 4 are down in the south end. And then each of those zones is broken up even further into beats. So when you graduate the academy, you're either going to work in the north end or the south end, and you're going to be assigned a specific area to work. So you might work zone 3 and then be assigned the beat. So you might work 309, for example. So this is obviously all going to be explained a little bit further, but I just wanted to show you kind of the lay of the land as far as what kind of calls for service you're going to go on, what areas are super packed, what areas are more spaced out. And so you can really decide where you want to live and where you want to work in Chesterfield. And that's what I really liked about it when I started looking for police departments, is obviously after 5-10 years, you might get bored of doing the same thing over and over and over again. And what I like about the department is that it gives you a chance to kind of change your career up if you want to without necessarily packing up your bags and going somewhere completely different. So you could live in the North End and work in the South End. You could work in the East and live in the West. I mean, it's really up to you as far as what kind of a lifestyle you want as a police officer and what kind of a lifestyle you want as a human, as a woman on her day off. So that's what I really like about the department and the way that it's broken down. And then we've got over 20 specialized units. I mean, K-9 SWAT, investigations, Marine Patrol, school resource officer, recruiter, background detective, training officer. I mean, anything that you can think of, our police department has. And if it hasn't been created yet, it doesn't mean that it's not on the table in the future. I know when I was going through the process, the title social media coordinator was like non-existent in my head. I was like, oh, we will never have a social media coordinator, or the recruiter will never be in charge of LinkedIn, or will be doing virtual career fairs or things like that. So obviously the police department is an ever-evolving wheel, and so you can definitely find your interest and be successful with that down the road. A little bit more about Chesterfield. So we are the 4th largest county in the state. I think I said that already. We have over 343,000 people living in Chesterfield, and that was in 2017. And that does not include, obviously, all of the new developments, all of the new areas that are being built, the new town centers that are being built, the new malls, apartments, housing. I mean, anything that you can think of, Chesterfield continues to grow. And obviously, that also includes all the people that travel to Chesterfield for work or just travel through Chesterfield on 95. We have a lot of visitors a lot of the time. We have over 19 county parks. We have several historical conservation sites, and we also have the largest state park in Virginia. Pocahontas State Park is in Chesterfield as well. We have a great school system. It's known as one of the finest in the state. And then also, if you wanted to go on and get higher education, we also have community colleges, and we're home to Virginia State University. Also in Richmond, we've got Virginia Union, Virginia Commonwealth, Richard Bland. I mean, we have a ton of different schools in this area as well if you wanted to continue on in your education. So starting on some information about the police department, we were founded in 1914. Our chief of police is Colonel Jeffrey Katz. We're a paramilitary police department. So what that means is we are like the military. We have a lot of similar goals and aspirations and policies and procedures, the way we expect you to dress, the way we expect you to react. All of that is very similar to the military. Just because you don't have military experience does not mean that you will not be successful. Again, I did not have any of that, and here I am 10 years later almost. So the police department and the sheriff's department in our county are going to be completely different things. So that's one of the reasons why that bullet point is there for you. So sometimes you hear on TV or you see on a movie or something like that, you hear sheriff's office and they're doing law enforcement powers. That very well may be accurate in certain areas of the country. However, in Chesterfield and in Richmond, Henrico, and especially in the central Virginia area, you're going to see police departments, and then you're also going to see sheriff's offices. So the sheriff's office, they're primarily more revolved around court security. They're also more predominantly responsible for jail security, so correction side of things. And then they're also responsible for civil processes, and so civil kind of paperwork. The police department is responsible for the calls for service. So when someone calls 911, we show up. If a motor vehicle accident happens, we show up. If a car got stolen, if someone got shot, if someone got robbed, the police department gets called. We're also responsible for the proactive work, and we're also responsible for the investigations. So that's a little bit about the sheriff's office has some law enforcement powers, so they can do traffic stops, they can make certain arrests and things like that. But as far as enforcement goes, as far as the police department goes and all of its responsibilities, the police department will handle that stuff. I hope that made sense. So one of the things I do want to share with you while you're preparing for a career in law enforcement is get into some citizens academies. I don't know if they have some up there, but definitely ask around in your local jurisdictions, ask around, when you go home or in your area, where you reside. Check out citizens academies. And what that does is it kind of gets your foot in the door as far as the police department goes. And every department is going to be different. So Chesterfield is going to be different from Richmond. It's going to be different from Henrico. It's going to be different from state. Every single department has their own ins and their own outs. So the citizens academies are a great way for you to put your foot in the door. They're free. And they're all volunteer. So essentially what you do is you go to that police department for an hour or two for about 3 or 4 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks, and every week it's a different topic. So they really do a good job at bridging that gap between the community and the police department, and you really understand why the police department functions and acts the way that they do. So I did citizens academies when I was in college. I thought they were great, especially because I did them in Radford, which is completely different than Chesterfield County. I mean, in Radford, you probably had like 5 or 6 officers working a day versus in Chesterfield where you've got 200 or 300 working a day. So it's definitely a different kind of dynamic. And so it really helps you kind of figure out what kind of a police department you want to work for. Do you like the slower areas where you only have 3 or 4 partners, or do you like the camaraderie of a big department? So those are all things that are going to kind of help you to make that decision. Some other things I'd like to share is we have teen academies. Not every department will do that, but this is more so directed towards that younger audience. You know, maybe you're in high school and that light bulb is in the back of your head and you kind of want to see and explore that a little bit further. Some other things I encourage you to do are ride-alongs and internships. So every department might have an internship program or a ride-along program. You'll have to do your own research and kind of figure out up there what they have available to you. But in Chesterfield, these 2 are options for you. Ride-alongs are great because you're just spending about 5 or 6 hours of your night, as long as you want to, with an officer, or during the day with an officer. And you get to ride along with us and see what we go through in a day. It could be really exciting, it could be boring, it could be scary, it could be funny. I mean, anything that you can think of that we respond to, you will be in the passenger seat and you will come ride with us, with obviously your safety being kept up to high regard. So that's an option for you. I personally did a lot of ride-alongs and I did an internship, and that really helped me kind of decide which route I wanted to go, and then it really helped me decide into law enforcement. Does that prompt any questions so far? Are we doing okay? Is the speed okay for you?
Yeah, the speed's okay. I did have a question about the forensic side of things, because my concentration is forensics. How how do they operate in Chesterfield?
So in Chesterfield, our forensic unit is actually composed of civilians. So they do not go through any kind of, they don't go through any kind of police academy. They don't go through any kind of certifications as far as law enforcement is involved. They are all civilian. So they only respond to calls for service after the fact. So say, you know, a homicide investigation has come up. They come when the scene is completely clean, when the scene is completely clear and safe for them to enter, because obviously we don't want to throw someone that's unarmed or unable to protect themselves into a hostile kind of situation like that. So that's what they're used for. Unfortunately, that unit is very small, and there's not too much turnaround because, fortunately for the people working there, they really love their jobs. So that's one thing I've noticed as far as the forensic side goes. The bigger agency, the better, in my opinion, just because that's going to have more opportunity for you to get your foot in the door. The other thing too with the forensics is you might have to look at like the headquarters region. I know I refer a lot of people to like our Richmond location, just because we have a forensic science building headquarters in Richmond. So you might just have to kind of snoop around and see what's available for you, or if you wanted to relocate and see what was available here. But the other thing I will tell you is that one thing that's unique with Chesterfield is we actually have a forensic tech program with our department. So essentially what that is once you become a police officer with our department, you can get certifications in becoming a forensic ID tech. And so what that does is, so your responsibility is to respond to calls for service, do everything on the police side, but if a call for service comes out and they need forensic work or pictures taken, fingerprints lifted, you know, bodies being processed, things like that, then they could call upon you to go and help with those. But the one thing that's different about that is that you're a police officer first and then a forensic tech, versus just being a civilian tech where that is your 100% mission and goal. I hope that made sense.
It does, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So I'll go over the internship opportunities real quick for you. The biggest thing with the internship program is you're going to want to pay attention to which internship it is that you're interested in and when you should apply. Because the biggest hiccup that we get with a lot of our applicants is that they start the process too late and then they're not able to go to the internship that it is that they want to. So you will still have to go through an entire background process, which can take around 3 to 4 months to complete. Obviously, with everything going on right now, our internship program is kind of on a temporary hold just because we want to wait and see what school is going to end up doing, what the internship program is going to look like once everything turns back around to normal. But that certainly is something that we encourage you to do. Definitely get your college credits under your belt, and it helps you get that experience as well. And so what we do with this is, you know, this would be a good opportunity, for example, for you who's looking into the forensic side, but is also interested in law enforcement, where you can kind of see the forensic side and hang out with a forensic tech, and then see a police officer who's a forensic tech and kind of compare the two and see which one you could really see yourself doing. So I think that's a great opportunity for you there. And also to see, you know, that with other police departments too, see if they have internship opportunities up where you're at as well. So these are the minimum qualifications for the police officer position. So these right here on the left-hand side are what is required of you by the state of Virginia. So you need to be 21 years of age prior to the completion of the field training program. So you can start the process and start your training when you're 20. What we will do as a personnel unit is we will make sure that you are being processed for the academy where you will become of age for it. So with us running our own academy and having our own facilities and everything, we will be able to kind of help you make that decision down the road. You need to be in compliance with our tattoo policy and appearance policy. So essentially, in a nutshell, if you're wearing the short sleeve uniform that these officers on the right-hand side of this slide are wearing, nothing above the collarbones, or nothing on your neck, nothing on your face, nothing offensive or derogatory, nothing on your hands. The only hand tattoo that you can have is a ring tattoo or something that kind of resembles a relationship or represents a relationship where a ring would sit on your finger. And then nothing that would consume more than 50% of your exposed limb. So if you do have a full-length sleeve, you'd be required to wear the long sleeves year-round. Other than that, everything else is free game. You can wear short sleeves as long as that tattoo doesn't cover more than 50% of your body. And then down the road, if you decide to get, you know, the full-length sleeve like a lot of our officers do, you just have to make that decision as well. So you need to be a U.S. citizen, have binocular vision of 20/25 corrected. You need to have a high school diploma or a GED. You need to have no conviction of or guilty or no contest plea to any misdemeanor involving moral turpitude, including petty larceny, any misdemeanor sex offense, or any domestic assault. No convictions of felonies or serious and habitual misdemeanors. You need to have weight in proportion to height, and we get a lot of questions on that one. Basically, when you go through the hiring process, and I'll show you all of those bullets here coming up, but basically at the end of the hiring process, you'll have an appointment with our doctor and with our psychologist. And essentially what they're going to do is they're going to look at you, they're going to look at your body, they're going to make sure that you're physically able to do the job and mentally able to do the job. Because obviously we all come in different shapes and sizes, and we can't look at a graph and tell you whether or not you'd be able to do the job. The doctors are there to look at you and examine you and make sure that you're able to do the job and that you're going to be healthy and safe while doing it as well. You need to pass an extensive background investigation, including a polygraph, psychological, medical, and drug screening. You need to pass our written test and physical test, and I'll show you that here in a second. You need to possess or be eligible for a Virginia's driver's license and no marijuana use within 12 months prior to your date of application. And so I'm sure you're seeing this picture and seeing the green uniform and the black uniform. The green uniform is historical for Chesterfield. Back in the day, we had a problem with moonshiners, and that was the way that we were able to sneak up on them with our camouflage. But obviously, police work has changed a lot nowadays, and the equipment that we carry is a lot more practically used on our Class B uniform or the black uniform. So you have the option to wear one or the other. They're both still practical for the job, but in my opinion, the black uniform is a lot more comfortable with that external vest. And so the green uniform has been transitioned more so into a formal kind of ceremonial uniform, and the Class B uniform is more so what you're going to be seeing every day. So this slide right here shows you the hiring process. Step one is going to be to submit your application online at chesterfieldpd.com. Once you apply, it takes us around 10 business days to reach out to you, and we're going to do so via email. So keep an eye on your spam and your junk folders. And what we're going to do is we're going to give you information to fill out this giant background packet, and that's available online too. In this next slide, I'll show you where that is. You will turn that background packet back into us, and then we will invite you to take our PT test and our written test, which is in Chesterfield, and I'll show you that. After you successfully pass those, and if you're invited for a background interview, then that'll be step 4. You'll have your background interview and a polygraph exam. That background interview is literally where you're going to be sitting face-to-face with a background detective, and they're going to go over that big old background packet with you. What they're doing is they're trying to get to know you as best as possible, and they're trying to make sure that we're on the same page as far as your background goes, and to give you that polygraph exam so that you can be successful with that. That polygraph exam probably sounds super intimidating and scary, but I promise you it is not. What it is they're going to be creating questions based on you and your background, and they're going to be testing you on the validity of those answers. So say you and your background detective talk about all of the motor vehicle accidents that you've been involved in. If you guys come up with 3, for example, then the question for your polygraph exam would be, other than the 3 motor vehicle accidents that we've discussed, have you been involved in any other motor vehicle accidents? And then you'll answer the question. So in theory, it should be the easiest test that you should take because you are answering questions about yourself. However, we still have some people that try to lie to the police department and their background detectives while trying to become a police officer, and for that reason, we still have to do that polygraph. After that, if you're successful, you'll be invited down to step 5, which will be your panel interview. And that's going to be your typical suit and tie, why do you want to be a police officer kind of interview. One thing that I will encourage you, I know that one of the questions that your staff from your school gave me was how you can prepare for an interview. One of the biggest tips that I can give you is if you're doing a panel interview for a police department, do your homework on that police department. Learn about the area, learn about the training, learn about the history, learn about the training, the relationship with the community, anything that you can think of that you can regurgitate during that meeting, it's going to look really, really great for you. So that's one of my tips for you. After that panel interview, you'll have your medical and psychological appointments again, where they'll make sure that you're physically able to do the job and mentally able to do the job. And then our chief of police is the one that ultimately makes that decision as far as whether or not you start the academy. So our academy is a little bit different than it is up in Pennsylvania. So you will go through this entire hiring process, and then we will pay you to go to our training. You don't have to have any experience or any training, no Act 120 programs or anything like that, because we will hire you first and then put you through our training and pay you to go through our training. So that's a little bit different than the way it is done up north. So hopefully that made sense for you. This website right here shows you where our PT test and our written test information is. So chesterfieldpd.com is on the left-hand side. That's the website that it will show you. That is where you will submit your application. So up at the top, it says Apply Police Officer. You'll submit your application there. And then on the left-hand side, if you click on recruitment and testing information, and I have that circled in red, it'll then take you to the next page, which is on the right-hand side. There's 2 tabs at the top. The first one is upcoming recruiting events, and that shows you basically where we will be. So whenever we have the upcoming career fairs or information sessions or things like that that we have coming up, we'll list them on the upcoming recruiting events. And then on the other side, if you click on that, it says testing information. This will show you the testing that we will be offering you. So the written test has 4 different areas. It's biodata, reading comprehension, recall of visual details, and written communication skills. And all of that is multiple choice general knowledge. So you don't need a study guide or be prepared for that written test. Basically, we give you a packet, you read it, comprehend it, and then answer some questions after that. The PT test is down at the bottom. It's got 6 events, and then it's also got the physical ability test standards for you. And so once you start looking at those tests, and just let me know if you have any questions once you start looking at those. And we also have videos that show you how we expect you to do all of those. Are we doing okay? Any questions on my end?
No, not yet. Thank you.
Okay, Sam, you're welcome. Thank you. So this next slide talks about our academy. So it is non-residential, so you get to come home every day. You would commute back and forth like you would a job. It is 32 weeks long, so it is about 7 months long. It's paramilitary, so again, that paramilitary word comes up, especially during the academy. We like to compare our academy to boot camp. It is very stressful. It is very physical ability oriented. It is definitely very practical oriented, very hands-on training. You don't just get to sit behind a desk and get death by PowerPoint. We expect you to be able to perform and act as a police officer before you graduate. So all of the recruits here is just showing you a picture. They would report to formation in the morning. They would have to do their drill and ceremony. They raise the flags up in the morning, bring them down in the evening. They talk to their training officer about what's to be expected for that day. They get all of their uniforms and all of their equipment are furnished. So essentially, once you get through this long hiring process that I just went over with you and you get that final review by the chief, your job is to report to this academy every day and learn how to become a police officer. And we give you all of the tools that you need for that. So the salary right now during training is you get $44,289, and then once you graduate and once you're done with all of your training, it goes up to $47,000. And then we'll talk about career development opportunities down the road as well for you. So these are some of the benefits. 15 days of military leave per year for annual military training. So if you're in the military, we have additional benefits that will assist you there. We have 33 days of paid time off. So right now, the way that our schedule is broken up, you work 12-hour shifts, and you either work 6 to 6 or 7 to 7. And depending on what days of the week you work will determine what your second week of your shift looks like. So for example, if you work Monday, Tuesday, then you're off Wednesday, Thursday, and then you would work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then the next week, it's the flip opposite of that. So you would only work Wednesday, Thursday, and every other weekend is a 3-day weekend. So every other Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you would either have off or you would work, either have off or you would work. So in a month, you're only working 14 days. In a year, you're only working half of that. So 33 days of paid time off is super generous, especially with the way that the schedule is broken up. It's an awesome rotation, and you're on that rotation for at least a year. So you're not bouncing back and forth from days and nights unless you put in a shift bid and you choose to get on a different rotation. We have a take-home vehicle program. So if you live in the county, you can actually take that patrol car home and drive it and park it outside of your apartment, your townhouse, your home, whatever works for you. And you can use that on your days off. So you can drive to the gym, you can drive to the grocery store, get all of your errands run, all of those different things that you can do while you have this patrol vehicle. And then obviously as you go up in the ranks and it becomes an unmarked car, it becomes a little bit more fun to drive because you're not driving around that giant billboard. But the reason that we have that opportunity is because of the awesome relationship that we have with our community. And so they like seeing all of the police cars out. They like seeing the police cars in neighborhoods. They like seeing that the police officers live in the same community that they're enforcing the laws. So I know, for example, when I moved into my house, my neighbors were super thankful that they saw a police car coming up. And so that's definitely, something really, really great and something that you wouldn't even think about until you are in that position where you're bringing a car home, where you're going to be putting your head down every night, and you're going to be, you're relieved that the people next to you are thankful that they see that giant billboard outside. So it's definitely something really great that we have in the county. We have a career development program. And so once you've got 2 years under your belt, that's when your degree will come into handy. So every 2 years, all of these different things in your background are going to equal a certain number of points. So a degree, having military experience, law enforcement experience, if you became a rifle operator, if you became a forensic tech, if you became a general instructor, all of these different things are going to equal a certain number of points. And every 2 years, you cash those in, and it helps you get a 5% increase in your salary. So it's a non-promotional bump, so it's a pay raise, but you don't have any additional responsibilities for it. So it's a really good incentive. It's a really good tool for you to continue your training and continue advancing yourself as an officer without necessarily getting bars on your shoulders or anything like that. If you did want to become a supervisor, then you're eligible to do that after 5 years. And then going back to the 2 years, that's when you're able to apply for all those specialized units like K9, SWAT, investigations. We have a motorist unit. We have K9, we have background detectives, we have general detectives, we have Marine Patrol, aviation. I mean, anything that you can think of, our department has. To help you prepare for that 2-year jump, we have a position readiness education program. And so what that is it's basically a curriculum that our department has put together to help you succeed in your future endeavors. So say you want to become a general detective, we have a bunch of classes that we put together that we say will help you apply yourself and help you prepare for that position, so that when that email comes out and they say, okay, we're accepting applications for general detectives, you can have all of these classes done and it helps you prepare. And then also all of those classes that you take will help you towards that career development program and help you get that salary increase. We also have regular semi-annual in-service and training at our own training center. And then we also have tuition assistance programs. So if you wanted to continue on in your education down the road, our department will help you pay for your tuition as far as that goes. So these right here are some pictures of life in the academy. I just have a couple more slides of this, and then basically we're wrapping it up here, so not too much longer on your end. On the left-hand side, I've got our range. So we have our own shooting range and our own driving range, as well as our own training facility. So this is really, really great because we value the training that we give our recruits, and obviously the way that we're training you is the way that we expect you to respond if, a loved one or a family member were to call 911. So we are doing this for the benefit of our agency. So at the bottom, you can see a little rectangle. That's going to be our shooting range. As a recruit, you'll spend 2 weeks there, and then you'll spend 2 weeks just above it at our driving range. And so we'll teach you crash avoidance, we'll teach you how to drive fast, we'll teach you how to pay attention to lights and how tunnel vision can affect the body if you're responding to a call that's exciting or, has a lot of risk involved and things like that. Obviously, your body is going to handle that differently than you would responding to it under normal circumstances. So our department does a really good job at kind of incorporating that stress inoculation and making sure that you're learning and being able to apply practical exercises similar to how you would react out on the street if it was a real scenario. So we do a really good job at that. And all of this is our own facility, so we get to run the show. So it's really, really great. On the right-hand side, this is just showing you one of our recruits going over the obstacle course. And just is just a reminder that the PT in the academy is very strenuous. So if you find yourself struggling after that PT test and the entrance exam and the hiring process, be sure to keep working on that, because the PT in the academy is completely different than what they expect from you in that PT test. These are just some more pictures showing you some additional training. On the top left-hand side, we've got some recruits that are on the firing range. And this is just showing you, again, they've got all of their uniforms and all of their equipment first, because we want you to become familiar with all of the equipment that you're issued, become familiar with the weight, with the way that it fits, with the way that it feels, and just be familiar with that. And then obviously we've got our own training staff in the back of the line behind them, making sure that they're operating their handguns safely and appropriately. Down at the bottom, we've got recruits measuring a skid mark. And so what they're doing is they're measuring how quickly a vehicle may have been going before the point of impact, so that they can do their crash investigation. They're kind of doing crash reconstruction, and then they would have to be responsible for their kinds of reports and things like that. So again, very hands-on practical exercises, not too much classroom time, just because a lot of our, job and the practicality of the job is outside of that police car. On the top left-hand side, this is the opportunity for me to share with you something unique that the department does. We have something called field experience training, which is where at halfway point during the academy, you've actually got all of the certifications that you need in the state of Virginia to be a sworn police officer. However, you're not going to be done with all of your training just yet. So what we do is we put you on a series of ride-alongs, but I call these ride-alongs 2.0, because you're actually going to be wearing the same uniform that every other officer is wearing on the street. There's going to be real ammunition on your belt. You're going to have real equipment, and all of that is going to be into play if you become in a situation that is necessary. So basically what you do is you ride along with some more, experienced officers, and you will basically go through a walk in their shoes and respond to calls for service, do traffic stops, do investigations. And one of the things that I really like to share about this picture is that the training is never over. So we actually were doing a practical exercise with an active shooter in one of our malls in the county. And so this was a real exercise. We had fire and EMS participating in this as well. The radios were reserved for this occasion, and we went through a physical exercise from beginning to end as if it were an active shooter. And one of the things I like to show you is that some of the officers in this picture are actually considered recruits, and they are still in the middle of their academy. So this is a great opportunity for them to get out, work with other officers, more senior officers, new officers, and it really got to introduce them to what they would be transitioning to once they graduate the academy. At the bottom right-hand side, again, it's just showing you that we do practical exercises. We have foam batons and things like that. So that obviously we don't want to hurt each other when we're in the academy, but we want to go through the full motion and give it 100% so that we can be familiarized with the rotation of our bodies and make sure that we're hitting blows that we need to, and effectively doing what we need to do in our job if the situation calls for it. So you do get pepper sprayed during the academy. One of the reasons that we pepper spray you is just to give you that experience, because if you do get sprayed on the street, which is 99% possible if someone else is spraying you, for example, if I was an officer behind this recruit that's wearing all black and he was the suspect, and this other officer on the right-hand side decided to spray the suspect while I'm trying to put him in handcuffs, I'm also going to get destroyed by that pepper spray. So obviously in a real life situation, that's not where you want to panic and lose your mind and lose control of the situation, because not only is it going to bring unsafe situations to the people around you, it's going to bring unsafe situations to you as well. So we want to make sure that you're exposed to that. The other thing too is that we want you to know that you don't need to unload an entire can of pepper spray on someone to get the effects that you need. And then that way, when you go to court and you testify to the effects, you can use that as your own personal experience, and then that's going to help you solve cases as well. Wrapping it up here, I've got like 2 more slides for you. One of the things that I encourage you to do is to watch The Journey. It's a 5-part docuseries that chronicles the training of one of our recent recruit classes. And so it's on YouTube. So go to YouTube and you type in Chesterfield County Police, The Journey, and it should pop up. And it's about 5 series. It's like 15, 20 minutes long per episode. So definitely, I encourage you, if you have the time, to definitely look at that. I really like it because it shows you all the different backgrounds of our recruits. It shows you the real stress. It shows you the real facilities, the different, kind of training that they go through, why they do the kind of training that we go through. So it's really, really cool. It's definitely raw and realistic footage for someone that's looking into law enforcement. And then finally, this is where I get to thank you for letting me run my mouth and fire hose you with a bunch of information. We're hiring new and experienced police officers. So to apply, again, you'd go on our website, chesterfieldpd.com. On the right-hand side, I've got our generic phone information. So that's going to, for you to reach out to any of our recruiters. And then again, the information at the first slide was going to be how you can contact me directly. And then if you aren't following us already, we are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So of course, down the road, definitely you're going to want to keep an eye on all of the things that we're doing, all of the exciting things that we're doing as a police agency. And obviously, I'm here for whatever questions you may have at this point. If anything comes up, just let me know and I'll be happy to help. And again, thank you for letting me take the time to talk to you.